We were expecting Mr. Mohammed Nalado, the man who went to court and got a court injunction to stop the National Assembly. As it is now, the seat in Abuja is still waiting for him. We hope that he comes in because he's said that he will be there. So we'll continue anyways. Mr. Oshadokun, as it stands right now, what exactly your movement and the thinking of people in that movement, and especially those who are perhaps on outside of the main political mainstream, the APC and the PDP, what are you thinking about this?
About what?
About the possible change of sequence if that bill is passed into law?
Well, you know, I think, we should be seen to be acting in public interest. That should be the constant and common denominator for the actions of people in government, executive, legislature. For me, local, from a crisis management perspective, it's better to the election that portends the greatest threat to the country in terms of massive destabilization is the presidential election. So to have that one as the first in the series of elections, it runs counter to that logic.
But we had it in 2015, nothing happened.
Well, I'm just offering my own opinion as to the logic, and the desirability of either positions. The president, nobody between the president and the Senate, none of them should worry really about the order of the election if you are guided by the public interest. Look, this is an opinion. This is something that I think is in the public interest. That we got it right. That nothing happened in 2015. Probably had to do more with the peaceful nature of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, who preempted any tension. The action he took, what has never happened in the history of Nigeria. He called his opponent to wish. But that was a unique situation.
But what are the possibilities, that you're looking at should a presidential election come first? A lot of Nigerians watching you may not get a sense of what you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. That look, I've been involved in president elections, general elections at the national level on 3 occasions. And I remember that the one that tended to be most peaceful was the one that started with the National Assembly elections, followed by the state elections, and then the presidential election. The presidential the stakes are highest at the level of the presidential election. The politics of underdeveloped countries or developed like ours tend towards zero sum. And so the higher the stake of the election, the greater the propensity for violence. So if you are looking at it from that point of view, you can then start from the one that portends the least potential for crisis, for tension. That is national.
Some people will tell. Some people will argue that, Mr. Oshadokun, why don't you start from the least? From the local elections up and drive it that way instead of going national, state, and go national again.
Okay, sure. So
the conversation.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, sure. I have no objection to that.
The question again would be: some also will argue that why don't you have perhaps the one that gets the most heat, and then you use it out that way instead of postponing what you have posited as a possible troublemaking election.
There's no logic to that. You cannot start with something that is the greatest threat. You see, if you start with like the state or the local level, right? By the time you get to the presidential election level, you will have seen a pattern, right, that will not make the presidential election contentious, in any way. You will have following the trend of the outcome of the elections, in the build-up. That is one. Secondly, as I said, look, the whole argument about restructuring, the greatest threat that poses destabilization for our political system is the central government. Everybody, you see the desperation to get to power. That is always the ultimate threat, to the political stability of the country. Who gets to power? Who gets to be the president? You mentioned 2015, as I said, that was a unique situation. All glory for that goes to God and to Jonathan, because that's a lot of what you are talking about. Then secondly, so you build up to it, right? Even the president himself, right? It shouldn't be the subject. It shouldn't be, at the very first election, be a candidate in which he has vested interest in all others, but personally he has a personal interest in that first one. So you see, his capacity, to act dispassionately or objectively about any security situation that arises from there is...
All right. I mean, because let's draw the conversation home now. And I'm very sure you've read and you heard a lot of arguments about this. And the fact is, a lot of people who talked in the way that you have spoken tonight, some people have debated that, look, there are the people who are afraid that should the sitting president run for office, it might be winning the election. And that's the argument for some people. And they say that's the reason why some of you are afraid.
Well, look, they have a point. I don't know. Look, they are of course.
Do you see him as a man to beat in this election? Should he decide to contest?
Listen. Yeah. The thing is, there is always the fear that the incumbent president will seek to influence, corrupt the elections, rig the election. That is always the assumption. People outside of power have no such power to do so. So the burden is on the man that is that situation. That look, if you don't have anything, for you to be seen, you are the one that has all the means. You are in the position to do so, and in the position to do so. So the question of that is always at the back of the minds of people, that this election, has the potential to be rigged. And who can rig it is the person in office.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akin. Always a pleasure talking to you. And we still hope to see what your movement... It looks like your movement has been quiet lately. Mr. Akin Oshotokun, Director of Media of the Coalition for Nigeria Movement and a former presidential advisor. That's our show for tonight. Many thanks for being part of it. We expected Mr. Mohammed Nalado, the man who went to court to stop the decision of the National Assembly in the amendment process on the Electoral Act. That's it for tonight. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye-bye.